What up, y'all? It's Cam with Get a Load of This. Thank you for tuning in today. Today we've got a special treat. We've got my man who I'm going to introduce here in a sec. But prior to that, I got special co-host Ryan Young with me from Valley Trucking Insurance. He's a trucking producer coming from our neighbors of the north, Canada. Ryan, what up,
Hey,
dude?
what's going on, everybody? How's it going? Happy to be back.
Yeah, thanks for hopping in, brother. Appreciate that. And then today, you probably actually heard him in the past at some point or follow him on social media. And if you're a fan of some argue to be the best trucks on the road and maintain their value and are the best trucks, my man Ricky G coming out of Las Vegas. He works with Kenworth. He's a sales associate, fleet consultant down there. Rick, I'll let you introduce yourself on maybe like a correct title and what you actually do, but I just refer to you as like a connection man overall, just all around badass, because anytime I get somebody over to Rick, I know they're in good hands, and everyone I've talked to that works with Rick has nothing but like the highest regards and most respect for you, man. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on. No, I appreciate that. I try to give the best service I can to anyone I talk to. My official title would just be truck sales. I'm kind of in that basket. I do approach it a little bit differently. I work with primarily fleets, a lot of over the road type trucking companies. So a lot of sleeper based, general freight type companies, but I do it all. I mean, I sell dump trucks, oversized heavy haul equipment, day cabs, and in the material type world, and anything from medium duty box trucks and such for local distribution to over the road sleeper specs, T680s, things like that. So primarily with fleets, and I sell the world's best product, Kenworth. So,
man, and what I love about that, and we'll get into your handles so people can follow you, is I see on social media the project trucks that you guys post. So when you get a new order, you won't just sell them a stock product, especially if someone doesn't want that. If they're already spending the money for the best truck, they're not cutting corners on price. They know the resale value is going to hold. They might as well trick that truck out. And that's kind of what I end up seeing coming a lot of the project stuff too, right? Is that right, Rick?
Yeah, that's, when I came into, when I kind of got involved in the job, my background's in freight and in trucking in general, but I actually never really understood how much third-party technology goes into the equipment. Anything from ELDs to, depending on the application, could be wet kits or bodies or who knows. For a trucker to go from ordering a truck and actually buying the truck to actually having it on the road making money it's a process. And a lot of that stuff, I was kind of asking myself, why not do it for them? Anything, it started off just, helping them install ELDs or picking an ELD if they're new to the game and then lettering and decaling their truck for them. And then it turned into some of the stuff you'll see on my social media accounts like KW Kingdom and on Instagram. Go check it out. Where I was doing $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 worth of upgrades to these trucks, custom paint, visors, deck plate, anything and everything you can imagine, more lights than you could put on a Christmas tree. It turned into kind of a little value proposition where I can differ myself from your standard everyday sales rep, right? Why not? And then it took off. So people like to pick up a product that they can put right to work. They don't want to, and then roll it into their financing as soon as they start as soon as they pick the truck up, they can put it to work. So there's not like a 4-week wait, before they can. So it's just kind of something I started doing, and it's worked out pretty nicely.
Yeah, no doubt. A lot of your backgrounds kind of led you to just become a better salesperson, a better overall person to deal with when adding value. You're not just, hey, flipping a truck just to make a quick buck. It's like, no, man, I want this to be an experience. I want this to be a long-term relationship. I want to actually be a resource to you, which is actually what led us to connect. We got connected from a mutual friend, our buddy John, and he spoke so highly of you. He's like, yeah, talk to my guy Rick. Rick's so cool. He's got an awesome background. He's all about the same mission we are, right? Just trying to help people become better, help trucking companies be more profitable, run safer, you look good, you feel good. That's where those the paint jobs and the
Yep.
chrome and the tricked out stuff comes in, man. You look good rolling down the road, right? You feel good too. So people want to know who you are. They look at the door and see, hey, who is that? What's that DOT number? You can actually recruit drivers that way stuff too, right? Yeah, 100%. And so let's talk a little bit about the background, so folks understand and know. Let's reinforce that you understand trucking, understand the industry, understand what they're going through. Sales is a background to you, but you're not in the sense of traditional salesperson just trying to get quick bucks. So
No, I do approach sales a little bit differently. That's a rabbit hole in itself. As far as my background, I guess starting with my family, I come from a trucking family, like a lot of us do. My dad, my grandpa, my uncle, pretty much everybody owned a trucking company or operated a truck for a different company. And kind of always said that I wasn't going to ever be a trucker or be involved in logistics. I was tired of it. It's a hard life. And so I graduated high school and got into sales. Ironically, my first two sales positions were the epitome of the worst kind of sell ever. So first I was essentially like a telemarketer. I sold, vacation packages to various destinations for Hilton on the phone. I was that random call you get on, on a Sunday while you're eating dinner with your family, like, hey, your car's warranty's expired and I think you should, so I, hustling vacation packages. Learned a lot about sales and the techniques that goes into it there. And then that turned into timeshare, which once again, not the type of sell that people think of when they think of relationship building, more of a scam. By the way, don't get a timeshare. And then from there, I went into solar. That was a really good experience. And shortly after that, I want to say like 2016 or 15, I became a freight broker. And that's where the whole logistics side of stuff really took off. I was a freight broker for a really large brokerage here in the United States, obviously. And I excelled at it. I started off as just kind of a load coordinator, worked my way up into a broker, into a team leader. My book of business grew to the point where I had, a team under me to help support me and get loads moved for multiple different clients and multiple different, types of freight, and, started doing trainings for them as far as sales goes. And it just kind of spiraled. And from there, then from there, I went into selling trucks. So what I've kind of learned, and I owe it to that freight brokerage, is just in my experience with them is, when you're selling, so people don't buy products. You hear this corny sales line, but it's 100% true. I mean, people don't buy products. They buy people, they buy relationships. And, you can sell just a product, especially in today's age where you can just do some research, find out what you want and then go get it. But if you want to continue to do business with them, and especially in the business to business world, you need to have a relationship with these people. You need to offer something that nobody else does. So between my attack on that was, relationships and learning about the industry in which I service. So, that of course opens a whole laundry list of stuff to start learning about as far as how to open authorities, titling companies, insurance companies, ELDs, different applications, what they need it for, as far as what they need for their trucks. I mean, recruiting drivers, safety, and everything else. So I just I watched a lot of YouTube videos, essentially, just started talking, trying to learn as much as I could. So try to be an asset for the company I was partnered with.
Yeah, it sounds like you are a relationship person. So you seem to have probably got a large field of connections in the industry. So can you kind of fill us in on what you're doing to maybe add value for relationships and connections in other areas of the industry to some of your clients?
Sure. So what am I doing to add value to the connection?
Yeah, I guess who are you connecting them with to make it a little shorter?
Sure.
So, what kind of industry people?
Yeah. No, great question. It's really, you just kind of find out what connections they need by asking them questions and figuring out what their hurdles in business are, right? Like not everybody needs everything. So I don't necessarily have like a Excel sheet with contact information that I forward to them and say, hey, if you need anything on this list.
Yeah.
It's just more of if it comes up and if it's insurance questions. I've learned really quickly to be an expert in your field and have relationships in the other ones. It's really hard to be an expert in everything, right? So if someone has a standard insurance question, I'll give them Cam's contact information and let them go ask. And sometimes they can, sometimes that turns into a business relationship for Cam. And then, sometimes it's just a question and, a waste of Cam's time. No, I'm just kidding. But, they can get their questions answered in a more concise way from an expert in the industry, so, and that's been examples would be, legal, it would be ELD based, it would be insurance, could be just standard operating authority questions, where I have titling agents that I work with all throughout the United States, depending on what, where they want to set their authority up, all kind of driver recruiting agencies, anything that they say is kind of a pain point, something they're struggling with, recently it's been disconnected. I try to be, and then if I'm not, and you're not going to know everybody, but if they do stump me and I do find something that maybe I don't know somebody in, it's usually an opportunity, right? Then you start kind of researching that field and you find somebody, you find somebody that services that area of expertise really, really well. Right now I'm on the hunt to learn as much as I can about, fuel cards and the different benefits there, because obviously that's a huge pain point in the industry. So, I definitely don't know everybody. But I try to know as many people as I can, and I try to find people who are good. I think the real value is that most people don't want to do the legwork of going through dozens of different companies and meeting dozens of different people to find that one good guy who's actually going to take care of them. So if you can cut all that work out for them, it helps them.
There's a lot of noise too in the marketplace, right? And what's the most important thing and your most valuable asset is really time. So why would an owner, or why would a fleet manager, or why would somebody in that position just waste countless hours making the same redundant phone call to the same or similar type people with no clue of what's going on, right? And where do they find those connections? Well, they're going to turn to the people that they trust, which is no doubt an asset of you just being a good relationship person and being a genuine and like actually caring about their goals, their needs, what they're trying to get to, where they're trying to go, because you're asking the right questions and you're having the right conversations, right? It's not about, hey, Rick's not just trying to sell a truck. Right. He could do that. I mean, he could post an ad up and put it online. The truck sells. He makes a rip. Great. Makes some commission. Awesome. Off he goes. And it's probably, there's no shame in that. And I think a lot of people do that, but that's what separates you from like a good salesperson from like a great salesperson, in my opinion, of somebody like Rick, is they like take the time to get to know the person, take the time to understand what drives them, what their needs are, gets to know their family, and then guess what? They come back to you and come back to you and come back to you, and they refer you business, and they genuinely want you to succeed, which is what led me to like Rick in the first place. I was attracted to that, trait, is like, okay, somebody I can trust for sure. So, let's shift gears. How have you navigated around the obstacles of like the supply chain issues and like the lack of trucks, and there's no ability to buy trucks right now? So it's a different landscape, I'm guessing, than from when you first started with Kenworth, for sure.
Massively, yeah. So as far as me personally, I'm really lucky to, and this is, the dead honest truth. I'm really lucky that the product I sell is Kenworth's. Kenworth's factory has taken a whole different approach than a lot of other factories to keep trucks flowing in as much as they can. And albeit, we can't get enough to account for all the demand that's out there, but they have jumped through crazy hoops. And some of the stories you hear, it just doesn't sound like something like a multi-billion-dollar corporation would do in order to service their clients. I mean, we've had shortages on, I mean, one great example, I just heard a story at the Utah Trucking Association convention from one of our sales reps, really great guy, another fleet sales guy, and he was telling me the story where his one of the shortages was resin based, so to make the hoods and stuff like that. And I mean, their current providers couldn't get them the resin, so like one of the procurement guys basically reached out to a college friend who worked in the resin world, so total random contact, and and basically worked a deal to get it air freighted over here. Well, you can't air freight resin, so they had to turn it into a dry powder product, or like reverse engineer it into a dry powder product, and then do something else basically so they could fly. And long story short, it was just this amazing, crazy amount of hoops, to get it over here and get it over here fast so they can, get trucks out, and they've just done anything from multi-million-dollar bailouts of vendors and partners they have taking care of their people, to so they can provide them the fairings to build the truck, to, just working with anybody and everybody they can to get as many trucks out there this year to satisfy the clientele. So to be honest, I've had to do very little. They've done most of the heavy lifting. But my main part in the navigation is just communication. That's huge. The thing I think we're all guilty of is complacency when times are easy, and times are easy right now on the sales side of things. There's a ton of complications. Times are definitely not easy on some ways, but as far as sales goes, I mean, you're an order taker, right? I mean, let's be real. There's no talent or tactics or strategy or anything needed to build a book of business right now. You just got to pick up the damn phone, and that guy's going to buy the truck if you have it. If you got a build slot, right? So on my end, what I've really focused on is just first off, making sure I'm staying in front of my clients, maybe going and prospecting a few new ones, which is always kind of weird to do when you don't have a product to sell. And then second off, just communicating where they're at in their current timelines, if there are any changes, surcharges, build time changes, anything, just make sure that they know exactly what's going on and making sure they're feeling as in the loop and as part of the family as possible. And that's really all I can do. That's kind of the approach that I've taken. So.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to the fabric of Kenworth, right? Is their tenacity, their willingness to adapt and change to deliver in any environment. And I think, a Kenworth buyer, consumer of Kenworth, is probably a different consumer of, I'm not going to name other brands of trucks, but it's a different level of person, right? Would that be a fair statement, Rick?
Yeah, they definitely have different goals and values in mind. I mean, Kenworth's slogan is the world's best, and it's 100% true, without beyond a shadow of a doubt. Just the quality of product and fit and finish and all the partners they use to build this product, it's immensely better. And I've laid hands on every single truck. I'll tell you right now that PACCAR builds one of the best products, period. And but yeah, what they do, like I said, the hoops they're willing to jump through to satisfy the clientele, it's outrageous. And that attracts the same kind of people, right? I think that's the brilliancy of it all, right? The people that you partner with, the fleets that buy Kenworth, these are fleets that have branded themselves on the quality of their service and their product, right? They have an image that they want to uphold and maintain. They feel that Kenworth does that the best. So those are the kind of people you want to partner with, right? Yeah. I mean, I call it the like the Walmart model, right? Just everyday low prices. I understand it, and I think there's a market for it, and there's plenty of Walmart companies out there. I absolutely hate selling that. I very, very rarely does price come up with my clientele. A, because they trust that I'm taking care of them. That's important. But B, they know going into this that the value the product is going to bring them is always going to far out exceed the couple grand they might save on a 6-figure purchase going somewhere else. So yeah, it's yeah, that's
Well, and the weight of the market and the resale value for Kenworth, and honestly, like, who would you label as a worthy adversary if you were to pick another truck brand? Most salespeople don't like doing this, but that's because they're uncomfortable with what they do. But like, if you were to say, "Hey, I admire this other truck brand," what company would that be?
well, Peterbilt's obvious, but as many people know, Peterbilt and Kenworth basically the same truck, just different fit and finish, right? It's a
Yeah.
parent company being PACCAR. I ooh, I really do admire some of the things that Freightliner's doing. I think, they've, as far as just business strategy, right? Like that,
Yeah.
they're a very storied company, and like how far quality wise their product has came extremely far, like leaps and bounds as far as quality goes. They're the number one market shareholder currently. Now, I think they're cheating a little bit because technically our market share is split into two because we got two companies, but whatever, details. But no, their products come a long way, and some of the business moves that they've made as far as, buying Detroit, years and years back when, and building a vertically integrated powertrain and some of the things that they've done there, I think is brilliant. They just really got to get their product to not look like 100 pieces. It needs to look like.
Yeah, I think the big thing too that scares a lot of folks right now, and coming back from a conference not too long ago, listening to some fleet owners and some industry folks talk, is the integration of technologies, right? And it's scary for some, not scary for others. They're worried about, hey, is it taking over my driver's job? Is it creating my driver to be more complacent and actually not be good at their job or focused? Does it remove too much out of their attention span to then, like, when something actually happens, like an autopilot situation, by the time you're crashing, it's like, oh shit, it's too late. I don't know what's going on. Do they rely on these like safety measures? What are some of the technologies that Kenworth is proud to be putting their stamp on and coming down the pipe with? Like, what are things that you're excited to get behind too?
Oh, 100%. So, as far as that stance, I mean, I'll just say I disagree with it, and we could get into that as far as making the drivers lazy. I don't think that's what these products do, but is the technologies I'm really excited for. I mean, there's just so many coming out right now. I feel like the trucking industry, the manufacturers in particular, have just like woken up all of a sudden, and they're like, we're going to change how logistics works entirely, and it's exciting stuff. But some of the things that are currently out now where you could put them on your truck, if we'd start in that category, they have new torque assisted steering, which is super cool, where basically at a stop, just sitting at the stoplight, you can take a finger and essentially, turn your truck's steering wheel wherever you need to go, reduces driver fatigue, feels a lot more like a car. I think that's really cool and exciting. The new mirror system where everything will be digitized and inside the truck, so you have a nice clean screen at all times to have good, perfect clarity as far as what's going on when you're trying to make a turn is cool. The Bindex Wingman Fusion packages, which it's some of the driver assisting stuff that you were talking about. That's came a really, really long way. And it's about time where, you'll have, side lane detection and correction. It'll keep you kind of centered in the lanes. Predictive and adaptive cruise control has been a part of this market longer than I have, but,
Right.
kind of slow you down before you run into the back of a truck and speed you back up when it's out of your way, kind of like how cars work. And then a lot of the autonomous stuff that they're really starting to make leaps and bounds on. And, the previous episode that we did, I kind of mentioned, I was like, man, that's, I don't know. It's going to take a while, and there's a lot of stuff and a lot of moving parts, and drivers have nothing to be afraid of. I stand by the fact drivers have nothing to be afraid of, but I mean, I've recently had an inside look on a lot of with our partner, and who we're, really trying to help out to develop some of the, autonomous vehicle stuff. And this is technology progressing at an insane rate. I mean, just mind-bogglingly fast. And they're in a lot different of a position, Cam. You look at like Tesla, and I'm a huge Elon Musk fan, right? Fanboy, like, if I met him, I'd probably faint. And he's he's a revolutionary. He's he's like a Nikola Tesla. He's like a Thomas Edison. He's these kind of guys. And you look at when he built Tesla and how that went. I mean, you got to think everybody was against this man, right? The lobbyists, legal teams, in some ways politicians, in other ways not. And more importantly, his competitors, Ford and Chrysler. I mean, these guys were, it was like death to Tesla, basically. I mean, they fought him every step of the way. This is different. This is very, very different. I mean, you're talking, they have the full support and backing of the largest truck manufacturers in the world. Billions of dollars are being invested from anywhere from, places you wouldn't expect, anywhere from trucking companies to Shell, like oil type companies, big investors that typically don't have anything to do with this industry. Money is pouring in to help automate this equipment, and it's super exciting to watch it progress, I guess is what I'm getting at. So I think there's some really exciting things on that horizon, and drivers should be really excited. I think it's going to make their life immensely better.
You say the timeline seems mind-bogglingly fast. So obviously you're kind of, I guess, surprised by the speed. Are we going to see some of these technologies getting rolled out a lot quicker? Can you even give us maybe a timeline of what they're expecting?
I don't even think they know a timeline, Ryan. To be honest, it's like, I mean, but we're talking, I would expect you'll start seeing larger fleets, really start to convert over their fleets, and within less years than you have figured, less than. I mean, within 5 years, I think you're going to really start seeing these things on the road and with a commercial intention. I mean,
like being integrated.
What's that?
Yeah. Being integrated in some capacity, at least, if not fully. Yeah.
Well, and it already is, though, in a sense. I mean, we've got so much technology integrated in with the trucks now. It's just progressionary steps. And look at Tesla. It took a long time to get off the ground. They've been around a long time. It just seems like now when you drive, all it is Tesla. Now, look, you got Ford, you got Chevy, you got all the companies, Mercedes, Audi, coming out with the electric, autonomous, the driver assist, all the stuff that's already been there, but now it's being adopted and used widely. I think folks too get worried, drivers are the asset of the truck companies, right? Yes. The culture of safety and drivers. And really the most important thing, obviously, for the company owner and the fleet manager is getting there safely and efficiently and making sure their equipment's in good working order. All that stuff it's designed to help you do that. You can run more profitably when you don't have a truck in the shop. When you don't have a truck that's crashed, you're running. You're not on downtime anymore. So the truck drivers, I think it can help them. But with that, I think the training has to evolve, right? The training for the driver has to evolve. The attention to how's your culture of safety in your organization? Is it like you're just the old boy that, hey, I can drive a truck, you show up, send them on their way, and you know nothing about this person? Can they drive? I don't know. They're going to hit everything down the road? I don't know, right? Or are you involved in Yeah, we're about to find out, right? We'll see how this goes.
Seems cool.
And I had a mind-boggling stat the other day from that convention. It was an economist, and actually we had ATA representatives there. We had folks from all kinds of different places that were speaking. It was a cool event. But one of the stats that stood out was there's 7.6 million people in the country that trucking touches as far as capacity of employment or influence in some way, like you're talking about, from the tech companies to the investors to the insurance companies to the manufacturing companies to DOT and legislation and all these different people. That's a lot of people that this industry touches, right? So it doesn't surprise me that you're getting this outside influence and this desire to make it better. And I think COVID's, it's an unfortunate thing, but what it's done is it shed a little bit of light and shown a little bit of gratitude towards truckers that they didn't have before. Yes. Unfortunately, trucking used to be fucking badass. It was cool. And I still think it is. We all obviously think it is. That's why we do what we do. But unfortunately, the general public, the perception of trucking, which is been a like tremendous issue getting young folks attracted to the industry, right? Like I think all these technologies and things will actually help and enhance. Like when I have to imagine, Rick, like if young people saw the trucks you're tricking out and like some of your clients are getting, shit, I'd want to go drive a truck, right? Like you see that, you're like, man, that's badass. I want to go drive that. So, you know what I mean? I think there's like this whole abundance of topics we can cover on that one thing that would just send us like down rabbit holes. But I think at the end of the day, it's a good progression. I think the technology will help. I think you got to train on it. You know, driver safety is obviously paramount, making sure adequate rest. You know, I know ELDs are a pain in the ass and stuff, but I think it's actually enhanced productivity and like reduced crashes. The things that I guess most people are bitching about right now is like governing the speeds of the trucks, right? To the 60 to,
Yeah, that's a big deal. Right?
You might actually know, Rick, is it like 60 to 65?
There's three limits being proposed or that were proposed originally. And right now they're just like, right now what they're proposing is they're basically saying, well, I don't know what it should be governed out. What do you guys think? So a little ironic, but it was like 61, 60. I want to say it was 60, 64, 67, maybe.
Yeah, and who knows the right answer? One of the stats I did see though, pre-COVID, road congestion, all the stuff, our average speed was at a certain level, and I don't know the exact number, but let's just call it mid 60s. COVID hit. Nobody's on the roads except for truck drivers. Mm-hmm. You know, first responders, they're the ones that like kept this our country intact during this time. Well, with no traffic on the road, the average speed increased quite a bit because there's no one out there. So everyone's traveling at a much higher rate now safely. There's no one on the road. Great. Now we got more congestions on the road because everyone's working from home or not working. I don't know where these people get money, but they just decided to not go back to work. So they're just driving around all day. Well, what happened is the speed never went back down or below pre-COVID speeds. So I think, you know, that might be some of the pressure to put this initiative in play because the accident severity is kind of creeping up there. And all you hear is negative news. These like horrible crashes like make the news, but that doesn't make up the majority of issues that go on, right? It's a lower frequency. Everybody knows if a semi-truck does get in a wreck, obviously it's a 80,000 ton rig going down the road. It's like, yeah, it's going to cause damages and stuff. And these four-wheelers, I see these videos of people brake checking semis and shit. I'm like, it's wild to me people do that. But
yeah, I think another big thing, man, is we got to think about public perception of safety also, which I don't know if that's going to help any of us as far as sales go, but putting this technology in these vehicles is also going to help public perception of safety of semi-trucks, which is what's driving legislation that's trying to regulate the industry harder and maybe in ways that truck drivers aren't liking. So this technology, once consumers and once the general public is more confident in its ability to actually maintain higher levels of safety, then that'll be huge for the industry as well. It's probably something that we don't really see direct effects from as much, but we're seeing it right now with legislation. So this technology getting rolled out is actually probably going to be killer for.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the public's just driving around on their cell phones, right? Like that's kind of what.
How many people do you know that like cringe when they pass a truck on the road because they think it's going to like swerve into their lane or whatever? Like when we're talking about.
Yeah, man, they're the knights. So here, and I guess, yeah, public perception's one thing, but they're the knights of the road, right? Like they're your professional drivers. Yeah. Shit, if you want to get behind like a good driver, just follow a fucking semi and you're going to get to where you're going safely, right? Especially in a whiteout blizzard or something. I trust them over the SUV or the minivan with the mom driving all the kids, right? So
yeah. I think the key word there is public perception, right? I mean, I think there's, for whatever reason, and I don't know how this got started, I'd like to meet that man and pick his brain on what the hell he was thinking when, but for some reason, everyone like thinks that truck drivers aren't good drivers, and it makes like literally zero sense. It's like, you guys understand this is what they do day in, day out. They've been trained, they've gotten their CDL, this is how they make their bread. And you guys are telling me you're better drivers than them. That makes absolutely no sense. And like you guys said, they're half the time these people are the people that are bitching about it is like you literally are on your cell phone like right now, and and driving down the road and swerving through traffic, trying to get around the truck driver because he's going too damn slow. And it's like, and then you want to bitch when he goes too fast. It's one of those things where you can't, I don't know if they can ever do anything that would make it right. And people just don't know, they're ignorant. And you have a lot of people start talking on stuff that they're ignorant about. And you end up with perceptions like drivers drive bad.
Yeah, it is what it is. Well, and the thing that they're talking on, these cell phones and stuff, came off a truck, right? Yeah. It's like, come on now, let's respect that. Let's go back towards like Kenworth. What is like the current market look like? What does the inventory look like? I know manufacturing, obviously, of trucks has ramped up like probably at an all-time high, or a high definitely in the last probably decade would be my guess for the demand of vehicles and stuff, especially with COVID and the impact of COVID. What does it look like right now? And what is the next 6 months, 12 months? If folks are looking at getting trucks or pre-planning for their fleet, they should already be on 2023 looking at 24, but not everyone is. What can they expect?
That's unfortunate, and it's unfortunate if they aren't. It sounds like a salesperson not doing their job to me. The demand is at an all-time high. And of course, with if you shut a country down for 2 years, don't give anybody anything, and then just open it up randomly, people tend to buy a lot of shit and give them a lot of money to do so. But the supply is still very, very suspect right now. I mean, super sus. It's like we can't build. So the factory for itself, kind of giving you guys an idea, typically operates, let's say, around like a 95% efficiency rating, right? Like a 95% capacity is what it's producing at. And these aren't exact numbers. It's not like this is released from the factory, so take what I say with a grain of salt. But professionals have told me, the people are saying, that it right now, for example, it's running probably 60% or less actual capacity. They're having rolling blackouts, if you will, where they'll just, for a day, they won't produce anything. Then they'll pick up for a couple days and they'll shut down for a day. And it's just because they can't get the parts necessary to build the equipment that they already have on order. But that doesn't change the fact. And of course, you're seeing that affect the used truck market. It's gone through the roof. I mean, just obscene prices. Brand new trucks that I was selling with all the federal, excise tax, everything included, is what used truck prices are being retailed at now. And
it's bananas for that. Ryan and I, with our clients, have seen a significant call. We actually been proactive. Ryan and I try to call our clients and say, hey, the value of your truck is not the same as it was a year ago. You better be looking at that. Right, Ryan?
2013 Volvo, I want to say. I think he paid like $35K for it. He sold it for $100.
That shit would be like $200 if it was a Kenworth.
Like $35.
For $35K, and he sold it for $109.
He sold it for how much?
35. 109.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the same stuff. I mean, you can't even get a Kenworth. Our dealership has like a bunch of Freightliners right now because dealers can't even go out and buy some of these products. It's like we're just getting whatever we can get our hands on almost, and that's not good for the client. And of course, we do our background checks on the trucks and DOT and safety inspections and go through them and everything. But at the same time, the trucks are moving so fast, that it's hard to. It's like, okay, well, when does it slow down? Which, right. I think you're starting to see the used truck market peak out a little bit. My opinion on it is because what's going on in the freight industry, rates are also have peaked and actually corrected some, probably about a 20% correction there. I think they actually still have a little bit of ways to go. And then the drivers being squeezed, the companies are being squeezed because you got costs going up as well, right? Fuel, equipment, driver salaries. So, people aren't buying as much, but on the new, as far as used side goes, but on the new side, I mean, the demand is we're so far behind on new that we have such a long way to go. And the factories have actually done a really good job at trying to kind of mitigate some of the price increases and keep themselves as competitive as possible, on the new side. It's not like they're just inflating margins, and doing everything. They're being very competitive our dealer group has done the same. We've kind of really watched price control because, a sales rep could go out and probably throw $50,000 profit or something crazy on a truck, throwing out a random number, and they would, and the truck would probably sell, right? Because it's brand new, it's got 0 miles on it. They have a much longer life cycle on a new vehicle to make their money back than they do used. So it's and so we've kind of prevented a lot of that from happening. So the new market is still in significant demand. I don't know exactly when that'll slow down and catch back up. All the conspiracy theorists and anything else, like we are not tampering down, supply on purpose or raising the prices, unconventionally or anything like that. Like, trust me, we're trying to crank out as many of these babies as we possibly can. That's how we get paid. It keeps the lights open in the factory, keeps my wallet full.
And he has a new baby, so no doubt.
Yeah. Baby's belly full, but they're doing everything they can, man. But new, it just seems like I don't even know if there's a light at the end of the tunnel yet as far as demand goes there.
So, like, what's your furthest ticket? Like, how far out can you book?
Oh my hell. Well, Kenworth's doing a little bit different than other manufacturers. I've heard like fall of 2023 into 2024 horror stories before, but the truth is, if you have a salesperson that tells you that, I would go find a new salesperson, because the truth is the factory doesn't know, right? And the dealers don't know, right? I mean, that's the definition of a supply chain issue. They don't know when they can build, what they can build, and how much they can build. They can't really gauge demand, because some people are putting in, one person might put in the same order to 3 different dealers, just seeing who's going to get it to them quickest. Or some salespeople might just tell you, hey, look, you're shit out of luck, I can't get you a truck, so that guy never gets logged. So no one really knows exactly what the demand is, and the factory doesn't know how much they can produce. So the way they're actually doing it is they hand a certain amount of slots, right? They say, okay, we have a firm guesstimate that within the next said period of time, and they're doing it like, I'm talking quarter by quarter, most are going to go out as maybe 9 months. And they're going to say, okay, we know based on what our vendors have told us, what our partners have told us, and everything else, we can build X amount of slots. Obviously, all those trucks are going to be accounted for the second we give them to dealer groups. Let's make sure we got a good idea of what these, of that truck count. And then we'll hand it off to the dealer group and, have a pretty good idea of what the price is going to be. When this all first started and the supply chain really got weak, the issue they ran into was the pricing for materials and cost to build was skyrocketing. I mean, just unreasonable, crazy amounts.
You couldn't even put a price on it. And then demand's really high. So of course margin could be there potentially too, if you let it go bananas. And so you have truck orders that you're filling from, a year ago, at a certain price tag that doesn't even cover the cost to build the vehicle, not even close, to procure the parts to build the truck. So, the smart manufacturers, which I think is probably all of them, well, wait a minute. Like, let's make sure we know what we're offering here and what we can actually do before we go offer something and then make our partners look bad and make ourselves look bad, And so realistically, I could tell you out until December how many trucks I'm going to build and, what the pricing on those trucks are of this year. After that, I have no clue. I mean, I have an Excel sheet that is infinitely long of people who want trucks, that I've been logging. But as far as if I can get them trucks or how many of those trucks I can get, I don't know, and no one does. Is it a color coded sheet?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like green, red to the bottom. different page. So basically what you're saying though is some folks are straight being sold to. So it's like, hey, you can get a truck next year, fall next year. There's probably no way of them knowing if they actually have a truck and a slip and like a set price. Because you're right. Same's going on in the building market, the home market, right? Like people are trying to buy lumber packages, but if you don't buy that lumber package, you agree to build this home. Well, lumber doubled and that cost gets passed on, right? Obviously the builder's not going to pay double the cost to build your home. I mean, you know what I mean? So Yeah, that makes sense.
They go out of business, right? I mean,
Yes, they do.
So we're talking and there's only a few manufacturers, right? It's not like there's a billion different truck manufacturers you could choose from. So they have to control that. And it's a smart thing to do. It's just good business to make sure that they're making promises that they can deliver on. That's much better than the experience some clients had, when this all first started. And,
Right.
yeah, but there's still a ton of salespeople are salespeople, right? They want to make a deal. We get paid when the truck is burning fuel, and they don't want to lose a lead. So if I'm, blah, blah, blah fleet that usually buys from X sales rep, and then I'm, calling a dealer in, from a state that I'm not even in, and I call this random sales guy and I tell him I need a 10 truck order. The sales guy looks me up and sees I'm a reasonable fleet and I could actually, take those 10 trucks very easily. He doesn't want to lose that fleet. I mean, that's a possibility to build a partnership, your relationship with a new fleet that could, really change your book of business for some of these guys. So they give them some random, the truck's probably is going to be, $203,000 and I can get it to you in November of 2023. And that's the very first way to kill a relationship. That's exactly what you shouldn't do, and you can't blame them you can't blame them for it. I mean, they got to eat, and it's
coming from a group of salesmen here on this podcast talking about it. It's funny, right?
The irony, but it sucks, man. I mean, I feel for a lot of salespeople out there. I was blessed. I mean, I got to be careful with how I phrase, because I don't know what I'd do if I was in some of these salespeople's shoes. We're talking about people who are used to selling, say, 40, 50 trucks a year that don't have access to do so anymore. And unless you had trucks on order before this all started, you're fucked. You're not selling anything, man, And I kind of saw the writing on the wall, and I was able to get, I kind of pushed my fleets to get their orders in as quickly as possible. It's like, hey, They're like, why in the hell are we talking about next year? I'm like, just trust me, and this was 2020.
Well, and that was a good salesman technique. And if it didn't work, you're fucked, but hey, it's working out. So no, I'm just joking. Hey, so you represented Kenworth down at the Utah convention for Utah Trucking Association, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. Let's talk about that a little bit, man. How was that?
It was awesome. Utah, it's amazing. Like Utah, I've only been to a couple associations, so I guess I don't have much to compare against, but I would bet, okay, I'm from Vegas, right? Let's make a bet. I would bet that Utah goes toe to toe with any other association in the United States. I mean, there's so much in support of and backing of the industry. It's crazy how strong the UTA really is. I mean, the showing was hundreds of people, of Utah fleets, and vendors, and they just come down and they talk about the state of the market. They hand out awards for trucks that were the most, trucking companies that were maybe the most safe or best performing or whatever the case scenario is, and they really support their own. I mean, it's amazing how these guys all come together and work as one. It's almost like working together as one big trucking company. So it's cool to see that. It's a good opportunity to network, of course, and to meet like big, experts in their field, So yeah, I mean, I had a really good experience. This is my COVID. So second time doing this, and you get to meet some of the just people who I consider to be, legends. The England brothers came down for CR England and Pride Trucking, massive fleets, right?
Never heard of them. I'm just joking. Yeah, for sure.
No, they came down and they spoke about where they started, humblest of beginnings. I'm just hauling potatoes with their fathers from Idaho to Utah, and kind of told their story and listening to them bicker back and forth. And it's a really cool time, man. I mean, it's a really cool time if you care about trucking.
Yeah, I think it is. What's like your big takeaway from there?
Big takeaway from there. as far as kind of where the industry.
So like for me, when I do these events, I find it to easily get overwhelming with like awesome ideas. You get motivated, you meet awesome people. Like you come back all pumped up. You're like, shit, I'm going to go do this, do that, call this person, like get into this. Like I'm all ready to go. So I've like, over the years of doing this, now I know it's like, all right, I just need like one big takeaway, like one thing that like either I learned about the industry, which I'm like, oh shit, I didn't know that, or, you know, something that's like challenging my point of view potentially, or something that helped me, right? Just something that makes me a better servant of the trucking industry, I suppose. So,
probably my biggest takeaway was the talking and the push on both the policy side and the vendor side, talking, you know, as far as like Cummins and the truck manufacturers go, regarding, you know, alternative energy based trucks. And so, like electric is obviously talked about a lot. But there's more than that, you know, there's massive, you know, there was a massive buyout recently where, you know, Cummins actually bought Meritor, which is a huge, you know, axle manufacturer, somebody Kenworth works with all the time. You know, they sold off their Fleet Guard division. They IPO'd it, which is, you know, you can interpret that in many ways, but my interpretation is they're distancing themselves from what is a very profitable portion of their business. Well, it's the filtration business, right, is what Fleet Guard is. So that tells me they're trying to kind of get away from something that needs to be filtered. Well, what needs to be filtered, right? So not an electric engine, you know, and, you know, massive R&D being dumped into hydrogen fuel cell technology and electric. And then, you know, we had ATA come down, American Trucking Association, come down and talk about, you know, some of the stuff that's on their bills, you know, that they're trying to get pushed and passed and everything right now. And the electric stuff came up, and there's a lot of moves being made on the policy end to try to support it and help it grow. And, you know, and I think at one point he said, well, it's not quite there yet, you know, which I think was kind of a bold statement, but you know, you are seeing a lot of action on that. And so my big takeaway was probably like, I need to get more on board with this electric, you know, to get on board with and learn as much as possible as I can about these new technologies that are developing, because I think they're coming quicker than what I originally realized and anticipated. You know, we're rolling out, in fact, Kenworth, I'm proud to say, you know, Kenworth Sales Company, Las Vegas, will be one of the very first locations, I know for at least Kenworth Sales Company, one of the very first dealerships where we'll have all the infrastructure and everything installed, from what I understand this year, for charging networks for an electric semi. And we have an electric semi on order. I think it lands here shortly. So we have an electric Class 8 day cab that'll be available here in a few months. And, you know, we're kind of grabbing the bull by the horns and trying to be a leader in that area. So that was a huge takeaway for me, and something I realized I need to focus in and start educating clients on and trying to get people to embrace it, because I'm sure, as you guys know, and this includes myself, it wasn't something that I really put a lot of stock in. You know, when you think trucking, you think big rigs, man. You think W900s dolled up and sexy. Yep. You think heavy haul and just these big bad trucks with, you know, long hood trucks that are you know, a man's truck, if you will, you know. And I come, and with my parents, you know, with my family, you know, that's what I know and I love too, you know. But the fact of the matter is, that's not what the way the industry looks anymore, and it's not a bad thing. It's really not. I mean, this technology is amazing. I mean, and the performance of these vehicles is amazing, and drivers are going to love it. You know, one of the conversations I have a lot with trucking companies is like, you know, when they're trying to pick gear ratios and stuff, especially on the owner operator side, they want to make sure they have plenty of power. They don't want to go 30 mile an hour up a hill, or, you know, not be able to get up to speed quick and stuff like that. But they don't want to compromise fuel. And it's like, okay, well, you got to pick one or the other, because, you know, but with electric, you want to talk about going from 0 to 60 quick. Go drive a fucking Tesla, you know, like you don't have that issue anymore, right? Like the torque ratings on these motors are insane, and the safety of them is just second to none. And so Yeah, I mean, I've rattled on long enough. That was a simple question, but that would be my answer.
No, I think it's cool because I think you're right. I think it's the leaders of the industry and the trucking company owners and the drivers of tomorrow need to know change is coming. Good, bad, indifferent. You can like it, not like it. You can go back to drive your 70 Challenger. You can ride a new Tesla, but it's coming, right? California's already put an initiative in for no more, diesel and gas rigs. I don't remember what year that comes, but next decade, right?
Mhm.
It's coming down the pipe. And then, obviously there's a long time to rebuild and do the infrastructure, but it's already in play. They're already taking down 3G, 5G is going up, electric is going in. Manufacturing is the big unknown. I think the thing I took away from that conference I went to was COVID still is impacting us because like you look at China, Beijing, and those major cities are on lockdown, right? Or they maybe just got out. But that halted all their manufacturing for the exports and us getting in any equipment and materials. Well, what's going to happen? We might have another jam at the ports again, man.
Oh,
Because there's no more equipment that's out there. There's no more chassis that were all magically just appeared that help us solve our problem. So I don't know. The war in Ukraine, there's a bunch of unknowns that, like, obviously these people, I don't know if they're all doom and gloom, but they sound smart and they know what they're talking about. I started listening. I'm like, oh shit, like it's stuff I didn't think about.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's probably something to consider and talk to your people about, right? And the thing with the ELD vendor I found fascinating is the 3G this year, all the major carriers are dropping all their 3G towers and 5G is going up. Now, that doesn't mean it's flip of the switch, it happens and it's down. A lot of those ELDs still operate off 3G.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens if you're at the scale and they want you to push the logs and you're on like a 5G spot that isn't compatible with your 3G ELD? Well, now you get dinged for not being able to get them the logs, right?
Yeah.
So there's just like small stuff you don't think about that I'm like, oh, I would have never thought of that. Yeah. So, yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing because it just makes us better, right? Makes you better, makes the industry better. You're able to then communicate to clients and like start thinking forward like you did with your fleets. Hey, I don't know what's going to happen, but writing's on the wall. I'm not just doing this because I'm selfish and want to sell a bunch of trucks over the next 2 years. I actually want to help you type thing, right? And like, hey, put your orders in now. Otherwise, you might be fucked.
Yeah.
You might not have trucks.
Yep.
And there's no doubt those guys are thanking you now.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard and it feels good. Like you said, it was a bet. I mean, when I originally started pushing them to go, I'm like, this is the writing I see that's on the wall. You start seeing build times lengthen out, and you're keeping your ear to I still have a ton of contacts in the freight world, of course, and you start hearing what they're going through, and it's like, hey guys, this is what's happening. So. And this year I won't be as lucky. I'll be assigned some build slots, and hopefully it's enough to fill my capacity. Fill the orders that I'm going to have, and it's highly doubtful it will be because it's not going to be enough for anybody who needs to put trucks on order. But yeah, you just got to stay ahead of the game, man. I mean, this is an information world now, right? I mean, really, it's the sales tactics and the establishing urgency and all the sales techniques I was taught way back, not way back, but when I first got into sales,
when you're a wee little lad,
it just doesn't work anymore. I mean, you can't. I mean, people have a supercomputer in the back of in their back pocket at all times. You gotta approach it in a different way, and if you can provide them information they don't know and they can't find. I'll tell you what, man, there are connections that they don't have and they don't want to go through the process of finding or just, or service them, pick up the damn phone. It's surprising how hard that is, for seems to be a lot of people just to, to help them with service or parts. Well, that's not my job. Go talk to the service manager. Well, make it your job, like offer value outside of, giving them an invoice to sign. So, yeah, and I think right now that's just trying to keep people with all the changes, everything that you mentioned, some of which I didn't even know. The ELD thing's brilliant. Yeah, I mean that makes total sense.
Right? That's what I thought. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Get fired, I didn't turn it off. I swear I didn't. I'm like, they, all these little intricate details, man. I mean, the world has been changing for for the last 100 years at a rapid pace. And I think you're starting to see a lot of it come into the logistics industry now. And unfortunately, we're decades behind. I'm sorry to say it, but we really are. Even where we're at now, there's just so many improvements that could be made, not only on the equipment side, but even on how freight gets tendered and the software's used to get that done. And I'm sure on the insurance side, I'm sure you guys see some inefficiencies, and there's a ton of stuff that's going to come down the pipe really, really quickly. And the best thing you can do, in my opinion, is make sure that all your partners and your clientele, they're as prepared for it as they can be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man.
That's part of the mission Ryan and I embarked on with the podcast, is how do we get back to the industry that's given to us and that we care about, right?
100%.
This is a little way we can do it, and hopefully one person listens to it and learns something like you just did with the 3G. It's like, oh shit, didn't even think of that.
He's looking at his flip phone like, oh fuck, dude, I don't know how much longer this flip phone's gonna work, and yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean that's it, man. And that's why I love this podcast, and I like coming on when you guys have me on, because there's not a whole lot of resources out there, credible ones at that. I mean, trucking companies and truckers, people who are trying to learn the industry, they're almost forced to go rely on some trucker forum, where, to be honest, most of the information on there maybe isn't that great, and it's a lot.
Yeah, we see them.
It's a lot of voodoo magic going on there, bro. Like, I don't know. And
yeah, a little bit of control on the trucking forums for sure. And the Ask Jeeves of Facebook is basically what it is. So.
And so they gotta have something, man. And that's what this podcast provides. It's a
yeah, man,
resource with credible people that they can hear from to hopefully allow themselves to make better business decisions and have more success in the industry. That's critical, and they don't have it.
No doubt. Well, Ricky, that's why we get you on there, man. So when folks are rolling through Vegas and they want to have a good time, they need to swing by Kenworth, especially when y'all get that electric truck, man. That'd be cool to check out. Yeah. And I'm guessing that'll be on your Instagram, right?
Oh, fuck yeah, man. There's if you guys want to go check out, it's KW_Kingdom. And I actually already have, we had CES and we brought one out already. So You can actually go on there and then check out a video I took of it, really brief one, but yeah, no, Kenworth is where the party's at, man. That's you don't need the strip, you don't need all that. You just come.
That's how you tell. Yeah, yeah. And I'll be down there. I'll see you here in a few short weeks, man. I'm excited to come check it out too. I'm going to be there with John and you. And John says, "How long do I got you for?" It's like, I'm getting dropped off super early in the morning. You got me until 10:30 the next morning. So see what happens. I don't know how Kenworth's open, but we'll shut it down.
We're going to have you miss that flight. No, it'll be a good time, man. I'm stoked.
Yeah, in August too. You better live up to that expectation of strip versus Kenworth sales. So
hell yeah, man. That's not hard.
You already know.
Heck yeah.
You already know. So cool, Ricky G. Man, I appreciate you coming back on. Thanks for imparting us with some wisdom, man. I always appreciate what you do, and I have no hesitation when sending folks to talk to Rick. And to be honest with you, he'll just shoot you straight. Get you connected with what you need, and he lives up to his word. So anyone that's looking to connect, follow him on Instagram. How else can folks get with you, Rick?
LinkedIn's a good source. So Richard Glaubitz, on LinkedIn, and then my email, first initial last name @ kwsco.com. Even if I can't help you get a truck right now, guys, if you have any questions or comments or concerns, or you're just trying to proof check information, I'd be more than happy to add value where I can. That's what this is all about. So
yeah, and he does for sure. So
thanks for all the info. We blessed our listeners with today.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's always great.
All right. As always, we appreciate you guys, truck driving community. You make the country move. So thank you guys. You can follow us on Facebook, find us on LinkedIn, get a load of this truckingpodcast.com on all the major platforms, Spotify, Apple, you name it. Holler at us. Thanks.
Peace.